The Jazz Age began in about 1918 and was most popular in about 1925.
The Roaring Twenties were filled with many good and bad times. The Jazz Age, many new creations like jazz music, flapper wardrobes, and jazz dancing.
There were bad things as well in the Roaring Twenties, like Chicago's gangster and El Capone.
Flappers were very popular in the 1920s.
There were women who drank and smoked in public, looked more masculine, bobbed their hair, and started not to use corsets.
Some of the popular dances people liked to do were the Charleston, the Black Bottom, the Flea Hop, and the Cakewalk.
The Jazz Age originated in New Orleans, where Louis Armstrong was born and became a lover of jazz and started to make his own jazz music.
Louis Armstrong was one of the first major jazz soloists on trumpet.
This time period changed how people would live forever. Jazz music became a unique and beloved form of art, but it's not until Prohibition that women started to express themselves. Jazz music became a unique and beloved form of art, but it is not until Prohibition that women started to express themselves.
Known as flappers, the Jazz Age or Prohibition era helps form the modern women.
In the Jazz Age, some people did not agree and accept the change in women so suddenly when they started to not do what society wanted them to do. Lots of flappers started to drink, smoke, and dance in public when they knew that they weren't allowed to or that it wasn't normal for them to do that.
They changed their clothes and dressed how they wanted to dress. They acted like they would by themselves because of how jazz influenced them to be. Our project relates to sexism and how men could have lots of rights while women could not do as much as them because they had a lot less rights than the men would be able to have.
People were angry at flappers because some people thought that women were supposed to be like stereotypic women and not do what they enjoy.
In the U.S., when women were now allowed to vote, they felt more empowered, and also when the education opportunities increased. Young women were encouraged to be more of who they were. In some of the articles, they talk a lot of how women dressed freely and did more unladylike things because of how jazz influenced them.
They became flappers because of how different they were to some other women and men who didn't accept it. After the women started to express themselves more. After the war, women wanted to be seen more by themselves instead of being how people thought women should be, like being a housewife.
Jazz also helped women when they were more accepted to make themselves a job in the music industry. When women made music, it also helped them to be more socially independent and socially accepted.
When jazz started to be popular, women felt a connection. After jazz started to open up to women, lots of women were jazz musicians, and they started to express themselves in all ways and be who they were.
This helped us prove our thesis because in these articles, they were talking about the flappers and how they changed the women because of clothes and music. It also proves how they reflected on it and how some people didn't agree with others and how they were acting but still did it either way.
Lots of new production and media that was expanding allowed women with diversity or diverse backgrounds to be able to have new creations like styles and activities. Women in the 1920s were very different than the generations before them and were able to change things that were not allowed for women to wear or do because of the people who did not want to see certain things come of women.
The 19th Amendment was also very important to women because it gave them the right to vote and have their voices be heard. Coco Chanel, a popular clothing line at the time and still exists today, that included the style of women in 1920s, and not just for people who wanted to have fun, but people who wanted to be more of who they thought they should be.
Life magazines from the 1920s had changed and had covers of women wearing shocking things at that time, like short and loose dresses, their hair cut short, and them drinking and smoking on the covers of the magazine.
These facts also help us prove our thesis because people actually started to accept women for their new looks and personalities of the time period and to actually understand women and what they were probably feeling about people taking over and controlling how these women lived until they were accepted. In the 1920s, there were slight hints of gays and lesbians in any ordinary place like a household across the country and around the world. This had also very many improvements in the world and helped develop many women and men in the world that also wanted to change themselves and other people.
In conclusion, the Jazz Age helped form the modern woman because after the 1920s, people understood women and why they tried to change the way that people saw them in society. This gave more rights to the woman back then, but also the woman now because of how they wanted to be treated, and they changed themselves instead of worrying about how other people wanted them to be.